two small boys, 1 8, 1 7. And one lives with a grandmother, one lives with, Melissa says, an older adult. I'm wondering if he's in foster care or something, the way she's putting it. But nonetheless, I only have 2. And, I will try, I won't be here next Sunday. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, I was wondering, I need to check on it to make sure, but could we include Destiny?
I would love to.
The homeless woman that we house, and, let me check this week, I'll try to get that line for you.
Well, the thing with her, we would not have to have things in quite as early. There's hardly a 2-week turnaround to get these back out to the school, because they get out of school like the 18th, which is a Friday. So we have today, if you count today, and you don't have the items, but next Sunday and the next Sunday. So you have 2 full weeks basically to get the items in. I'm gonna try to make them sort of simple, you know. Sometimes they're too specific and you can't find those specific things. So I'm gonna try to make them in general, some clothes items. I always love to do pajamas and bed slippers and warm things, some toys. Maybe stocking bag for each of them and the adult. And then with Destiny, we could have maybe another week in order to gather up things.
I'll work on that this week, if you want me to.
I do, something for her and,
Those little girls.
Yeah.
and something special. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I thought the first thing that was astonishing about this is that instead of going down, the number of deaths due to drug overdoses is constantly going up. And in spite of the best efforts of the government and agencies and churches, we're still losing more people to overdoses of drug addiction than we had thought. So, what is our responsibility? Like the people who went before the Good Samaritan on the road and saw the person laying there bleeding, they walked on by. And to be perfectly honest, there are times when I have walked on by, maybe not actually, but figuratively walked on by, just because I didn't want to get involved. But until it comes home to you, you maybe don't recognize what words can do or what actions can do about the welfare of another person. I was at an event where I observed something that has stayed with me. It was an event that was supposed to be a happy event and everybody should be pleased to be there and proud, etc. I watched as one person at the end of the event called out to another person that I figured was a friend from the past. But the friend from the past didn't answer, and the person called out again, and the friend from the past didn't answer. That went on about 3 times, and then the friend from the past turned and walked away. But that was hard to watch, because for the first time I really realized what you can do by walking on by or walking off. So tell me something that you maybe learned from this, what you thought you knew, but maybe don't know about the video.
The punishment certainly not the answer.
Punishment is not the answer.
It's stress.
I never thought about loneliness as being, wasn't it talking about loneliness, lack of
Yeah, social contact.
social contact. And I guess I heard a podcast on, what is it, Hidden Brain this week, I think it was a couple of weeks old, but anyway, its theme was loneliness is now a major health problem in the country. And the loneliness, I think, would connect with what was that video was about.
Absolutely.
After the pandemic, people, I think, people are alone more now.
Well, that, and on the way in, so me and NPR get along real well on the radio, but they were, I'm not sure who was being interviewed, that's very on. But they were talking about the effect of technology and how we're tuned into our phones and we're tuned into the computer. And those are connections, but they're what this guy called weak connections. They don't have you don't see the person, you don't see their body language, you don't make eye contact, you're not really with them, you're kind of with them in a way, there's no contact at all, I guess. But I thought that also feeds into this loneliness and this removal of being contacted with people.
Well, it's not only that, to me, with that, communicating with electronic devices, is that very often what you're saying or what the other person is saying is misinterpreted because of the lack of being able to see the body language and to really understand the facial expressions and the intonations and things like that.
And to make the real connection, what you need for what he was talking about, I think that can lead to addiction.
And if it's just the printed word, when you speak, you have a cadence, you have inflections that you put on certain words. When you're just typing stuff, in an instance of mine doing that, it was totally misconstrued. And it took, I'd probably say several months to get that worked back out till the person that we were communicating back and forth, the other person, misconstrued it. It was with my high school class, and we were going back and forth. And typed in, I don't have anything else to do with you folks, blah, blah, blah. And we could have just let it go. But we were concerned because this was a very good classmate, a very good friend. And it took several months, but we got it worked back out. But it's hard with that kind of communication.
That's the only communication with some people. Yeah. So, and I come back to this welcome does not equal inclusion statement that I saw somewhere, and I think that's also very valid because we do good jobs at welcome. Oh, we're so glad you're visiting us. Or it's so good to see you again. But does it die there? If it dies there and you don't have any contact with a person who is thinking about establishing a social or a religious contact, whatever it may be, then you've missed an opportunity.
And it's so much easier just to,
Oh, yes. We do real good at that, yes. And I know that many of you are very good at that and will take care of it. So some of us who are not so good at that just sit back and let you all take care of it because you do it so well. But maybe we need to be more involved too.
Can I say something right here is to move us all a little bit out of our comfort zone? And I was thinking about all the things that I've let go by the wayside, because I've been very busy this week, but one of the things that keeps popping into my head all the time is things like, oh, when was the last time I called Bill Britton? When was the last time I talked to Kathy Lee? When was the last time I talked to, well, I don't talk to Jean Robbins, but I know she's having some contact, so it doesn't bother me. Ruth Meadows, you know, I do this all the time, and we have a committee system, and one of our committees is fellowship, there's mission and outreach, and there's fellowship and nurture. That's the words. Is that, I got that right, don't I? And true enough, fellowship and nurture, I mean, we think about, you know, getting ready for the third Sunday dinner and stuff like that. But somehow, shouldn't we just, if we know people aren't coming, but they're still here, let them know the church is thinking about them? Shouldn't just automatically, there's something to be done where we could send out a card or something, and the reason I'm bringing this up in community here is because we have a tendency, oh, he'll handle that, he'll handle this, and it's like walking away because you know the Samaritan's right behind you, if you were close enough. So, anyway, I'm just bringing that up so we don't get too comfortable. I know we, as a congregation, we really care about people, because all means all here. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out, because I feel like myself too. You know, when was the last time we called Bill Britton? I was just thinking about that.
Well,
Just to say hello.
you know, I'm kind of like Joanne, I would let somebody else do that kind of stuff, but Lucy got me, pre-COVID to, start helping her with Patricia and Frida and Ruth, I think were the three, that to send them bulletins, you know, pre-newsletter things. And we visited, and I am not good at that. But like you said, John, you know, to kind of get you out of your comfort zone, that helped me a lot. It was as beneficial to me doing that visiting and making those contacts. Definitely more beneficial to me than I'm sure it was to them. And when I started doing the newsletter, that was one thing that was really important to me. You know, when we weren't meeting here, I mailed everything out. And then when we started back together in the church, I still mailed out a good many, as many as I was handing out here. And that was one of the things that I really struggled with in stopping doing the newsletter, because I was afraid that some of those people the church had been reaching twice a month through the newsletter wouldn't be reached anymore. So I think I finally came to the conclusion I had to do what I felt was best for me, but I still think sometimes I need to do more for some of those that maybe we're enjoying. I don't know if they read it or not, but maybe that at least when they got it and saw Marsfield United Methodist Church, that they felt like, oh, you know, somebody is thinking about me or something. So.
The reason, can I say one other thing? The second part of that uncomfortableness I brought up was, it shouldn't be, if we can somehow, we have a committee, if we can somehow get some system, part of the system, it doesn't have to, you know, it's not that it shouldn't be expected of one person. The whole point of the Jesus message is it works if systematically, if you know, whatever happens to one person won't affect the whole thing. And, you know, it shouldn't, the whole point is shouldn't be on a person. We shouldn't have to do this. It works better if we don't do it individually. That's basically what, the second part of what I was, my comment there.
You know, something Emily had us doing last Christmas was, and we did it during Sunday school, if I remember correctly. She brought Christmas cards, you know, we donated Christmas cards to her, and, we sent a Christmas card to each person in the return center. You remember that?
Yes.
We did. But what if we were to take the list that she has, people she mailed that you had to mail the, full to newsletter, and what if we did a Christmas card for each one of those persons?
You might want to get the list from the retirement, because people move around, and unfortunately, people pass away.
Oh, I know, but I'm talking about,
Mary
I'm
Lou's
talking about the
was-
people she's at the newsletter to that doesn't come to church. You could, you know, you could come up with a list like that, couldn't you?
It would be very helpful, I think.
It would be a way of still reaching out.
Cards do make a difference.
Yes, they do.
And if you put a little personal message along with it, that helps too.
And we did that during Sunday school last year.
Yeah.
We wrote our little messages.
On the street. These would be people that we would know somewhat, you know, from
Dealing with.
Can I say one other thing too, because we touched on this loneliness thing is because it's kind of a deception. Everything is online and not, but to something good about he's taking care of this online presence for us. When I do talk to Bill Burton, the last time I talked to him, he watches it online. There's one of your hits. Just so you know where it's coming from. He does watch it online.
I think our online presence has, helped has almost made our church survive during COVID. And if we hadn't had that, I don't know what would happen.
Yeah.
Maybe nothing.
And we got Margaret.
Are directly here because of,
But there are people that show up in the audience every once in a while, and they say that, you know, they saw us on Facebook or whatever.
Facebook.
well, the other thing is
Not
too,
Facebook.
and I'm not just saying this because he's sitting here, but the quality of our pieces, the quality of the Facebook page and the regular web page is just amazing.
It's up there.
It's
I
just
can
amazing.
compare that to the church I went to in Columbia and their webpage. And I mean, I think my granddaughter could do a better job than they did. And it's really amazing
What
the
you put
difference.
on the line, I don't know how you do that, Pete, but the content is just so substantive. It's not just, it's nice pictures, the pictures are great, but there's more to it than just the pictures, and I think that has made a big difference. It probably makes a big difference if who watches it on Sunday too.
Yeah, I think it does.
I know we're digressing a little bit from the topics of addiction and things of that nature, but I'm thinking back to Mary Lou's point in terms of I'm certainly not one. If someone would pull me along, I'd probably go visit. To work out with schedules, but I'm certainly not one that would work that into my schedule myself. I did go over to Vespers when we used to sponsor that, and I know Chip has continued that at some points and things of that nature across the street. But how many of you, we were mentioning Facebook, how many of you are on Facebook?
I'm not very active on it anymore.
Yeah.
So maybe you can't visit, but it's really easy. Where churches really excel with getting more people to watch, and certainly that's increased for us. We actually have more people worshiping with us online now than we had during the height of the pandemic. But it's really easy to hit share on Facebook and just share really quickly the service as is. And honestly, even if we were to put a paid spin behind what we were doing, we still wouldn't see the number of people worshiping that we would if individuals would take time just to share it. So if one or two people took a little bit of time just to hit share, really simple, you could say like, hey, our handbell choir played today at our church, hope you enjoyed the music, something like that. Or we had a really amazing solo today. You don't necessarily have to think of it as evangelism per se. Granted, the United Methodist Church is an evangelistic church, but it may be more than you consider. So it's really easy to hit that share button. Maybe a little bit more than knocking on a door or going out to drop something off in a new. And it is also really great because we're starting to get people who are commenting online. So if you can take some time to go back to one of the videos and where someone has said like, hey, I joined in, or it was great to hear this, just to reply to them and say, so glad you did, like, would really appreciate you joining us, just like you would do in person. Think of it as like some of the people do in person, and maybe if you're not comfortable doing that, you might be able to do it online. So if there are churches who do this really great, also have people, sometimes even in the pews, who will jump online really quickly and be like, hey, we're so glad you're worshiping with us today, so glad that you're here, just like they would do that. So it might be something you could do quickly online while you're in the pew as well. And it's also on the web page, it's really easy to drop that into an email as well as to send to someone. So maybe lower barriers to getting started with something versus knocking on a door or going into a neighborhood.
And that's something even we reclusive people.
If there's snow outside, you can still.
So does it show up on the website if somebody makes a comment about the service?
It will on Facebook, yes, because of the comments.
All right,
Yeah.
so through Facebook.
Facebook's a little bit easier to, I mean, you can absolutely do through email, but Facebook has that interaction aspect to it. And people who do it on the web page, there's a little form that they can fill out, almost like our little pew card, to be like, hey, I was here. So like, I think the last one we got was when Jonathan was preaching, and some of his family members, I believe in Maryland, completed the form to let us know that they heard Jonathan that day.
You might wanna do a little demo one morning that would show.
That would be helpful for those.
That would be good.
Where'd you?
Well,
And I'm gonna say something that's a little bit off topic, but when I was, but it's related to this. When I went to see my family in Arlington over, over Halloween, my daughter-in-law set me down and read me the riot act about not staying in touch with family and friends like I should. She said, you have gotten really bad about getting up on that mountain and shutting yourself off, and you need to do a better job. And she said, you have been depressed. And she said, this could very well be a part of your depression. An extension of it, a result of it, a symptom of it, whatever you want to call it. But she's so right. I mean, you talked about really nice notes. I have a friend down in Columbia who has had a really bad bout of cancer, and they really didn't expect him to live, but they did he was given the transfusion, and he's doing very well now. And he even called me to tell me I'm in remission. But he sends me these wonderful notes that he's not an artist, but he does things like cut out flowers and paste them on a piece of paper, and just really thoughtful things. And it means a lot to me. And I am so bad about not replying to him. I have at times, but just the dedication he has to caring for people is just above and beyond.
I said something about the negative effects of technology, but I also think about the positive effects, and even texting people. Texting is so easy, and you're not intruding them even like a phone call.
Yeah.
You don't have to,
Talk to him.
talk to them. You just say, thinking about you today, and I don't do that much, a little bit, but that's a good way, it's not as good as looking somebody in the eye and smiling and
Yeah.
telling them you
But it's
like
easy
Or
to
frowning.
do.
But it's easy and it's fast, and I think it's good.
It
Would
is
you all
good.
like for me, I'll be responsible for getting the cards if you want me to, I can get with you and get, and like maybe your son's, you know, send a card to the people that.
It'd be real quick if we did like we did last year.
Yeah, but
Everybody
somebody's-
writes a little note and you sign it, Marcel United Methodist Church,
Yeah.
instead of put your name, you know? And we got a whole lot done in a short amount of time, and we were still able to listen and
Yeah.
have Sunday school.
Yeah, be part of Joanne's.
We can chew gum and walk.
Would you all like to do that? I'll be glad
Yes,
to.
yes, yes, that would be
I'll
wonderful.
probably bring you next Sunday.
I don't know.
I was gonna say one more thing, that I promised to be quiet, I won't say anything else, I will sit down. I see the difference, but with my life, I have two lives, I really have, I live two different lives. And I live my Mars Hill life, and I live my Arlington life, and they are so very different. Not because of the environment or all the stuff, and there's fun stuff to do up there, and with my family, they're all caught up at work, and I don't really spend that much time with them. The grandson's gone to college, so I don't have a lot of social contact up there. I have a pleasant place to be. I'm close to the grocery store, I'm close to the pharmacy, you know, I don't have anything to complain about.
Good restaurants.
Yeah, good restaurant. But I don't have the kind of social connections that I have here. I don't have a Sunday school class that I feel really a part of. I don't have the handbell choir, I don't have the art groups. So it's a pleasant existence, but boy, the human contact makes a difference in the quality of it. So anyway.
Well, we're different when you're gone. I'm just gonna say.
Okay, I'll just sit in the kitchen now.
No, we're different when you're gone.
We should, make a special effort and remember those people who may be going through some hard times right now. And there are several in our church who are. And I don't think Laura would mind if I mentioned that it was her son's birthday. And that was a hard time for her.
It's Friday, was
She's an
Kathy's
example.
birthday.
Laura's an example of somebody who, if you're going through a hard time, get out and get involved with other people and have feelings for their hard time. That'll help you deal with your own. She's a good example of that, I think, because Laura makes a real effort to be very social. She's made contacts with all of us. And that's what you have to do. If you feel really down now, if you get in, try to get in other people's shoes for a while, it helps yourself. You deal with stress.
That has its limits, and sometimes you run out of things to do and sort of shut down. So
When was his birthday?
it was last week, I think sometime,
When was his birthday?
not too long ago.
But Kathy's birthday was Friday.
Yeah, so I empathize with that
Yes.
birthday person.
And with Thanksgiving coming up, that's another,
Yeah.
that first time.
It's true. Christmas time is true.
Yeah.
Okay,
let's
look at
Samaritan.
There's, we expect our government to do things for us that we can't do, and to do them well. And sometimes that happens, and it's a really good thing, because there are things that require more effort and more resources than we can muster for money. So in the rescue of people who have taken an overdose, quite often they will get into the system, and sometimes if you have called to report an overdose, you will get into the system, and maybe you don't want to be in the system. So sometimes people who are casual witnesses, or maybe even more than casual witnesses, of someone who is in distress because they perhaps mistakenly took an overdose of a drug, or maybe deliberately took an overdose of a drug. You have a real dilemma about what you do. Now, most of us, I think, would call 911. That's the only thing I would know to do. But according to this Good Samaritan law that we have in North Carolina, there are some issues with this. And I'd like for you to take just a minute and look at this and think about the things that you agree with or that you disagree with. This is a drafted letter from the North Carolina Council on Churches, the one that I read that terrible list to you about last Sunday.
I think that's statement faith without works.
I never even thought of some of these things.
There are two young people who are both taking drugs, and one overdoses accidentally. The other one's afraid to be arrested for having it.
I didn't realize, and some of them are also taking drugs, but they didn't overdose, and so they wanna stay away from calling the authorities. I hadn't even thought of some of those situations.
And why you would not have immunity for fentanyl or methamphetamine as drugs of use is questioned. You could be questioned. Or the person who took the drugs could be questioned about where did you get this drug? And who is responsible for you, if anyone is, and there will be lots of problems that would be raised if this is a correct reading, and I assume that it is, of that law.
I have a nephew, great nephew, who passed away from the opioids, and he was an EMT, and his friends were aware of his problem, and they didn't do enough for him, and he.
They were EMTs, and they couldn't help.
Well, he was working with them, but he actually died at home. Yeah, but they knew that he was doing that, and they didn't do anything enough for him
Yeah.
to, so he ended up
So,
And when you're talking about professionals.
Yeah.
am I understanding this right?
Were they afraid he'd lose his job?
I don't know what the reasoning was, but to turn your back on someone who's having a really severe addiction problems is, it's just wrong.
Margaret, am I understanding this right, the way the law is now, that if somebody calls 911 and gets you out on an overdose, after they fix you, they throw you in jail?
It's potential that they could. It depends upon the.
They had drugs on them as well.
Well, if they got drugs in them, they had drugs on them.
We're talking about
That's
the
the law.
Yeah, after they fix it out, it's like, somebody is in a
They
mass
face
shooting,
charges.
they shoot him, and he's still alive, the mass shooter, they have him in jail, but he's gonna be arrested. Well, they're treating an overdose victim the same way?
An overdose victim may get into the system of drug control and be prosecuted for drugs that they have, like fentanyl or methamphetamine for sure.
Well, that just actually perpetuates the system and actually makes it grow, that kind of stupid law.
Well, it makes people not want to call
And
911.
that's what Margaret was saying, it makes people not want to call. And that's what this says.
Because I would not only get him in trouble, who is doing this, but I may
That
get
you
me in
stand
trouble.
in trouble, right? Right.
Anybody know the actual wording of the law? I was looking to see if I could just find what the law actually says, and I couldn't find it. I don't know what it says.
Well, we need to find out, but this evidently is what needs to be altered.
Yeah.
The things that keep people from calling. And you can imagine that the people who are EMTs get somewhat jaded. I mean, really. They get tired of going to the same place with the same problem all the time. So they may refer to the police.
And they'll be sent to the hospital, to be detoxed. And from there, they'll be sent to the psych ward or rehab center, neil diagnosed or cold stone. For a period of time. And then they're out on the streets again. And it starts all over again.
And the problem has not been fixed.
That's
Whatever the
right.
problem is, it still remains.
I did not realize until the last few years that that is a vicious cycle. And they're not in those facilities long enough to get over their situation, and when they get out, they're right back in the situation with the people.
Well, and it goes back to the video, they're back in the situation where they don't have the right, I don't say right, they don't have helpful connections.
Right.
Other people, they're back to the bad connections.
Yeah, so they go back into the bad habits.
It wasn't said doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Einstein.
It's crazy. So if we do the same thing over and over, and we know how it's going to turn out.
It's just so hard to get people to realize that, it's so hard to break that. That's what we have to do, is try to help the city.
And we are so fearful of getting involved over our heads. Have you ever had a cautionary table like that? I worked for years, 4 years at the homeless school at Highland Hospital, which was psychiatric unit for young adults.
Yeah.
And it was quite an experience. I went in thinking everyone would get well. Not really get well.
Yeah.
You know, one thing in AA is that you have to get a sponsor.
Right.
And that sponsor should be available 24 hours a day. We have that registered call them, talking out. They're there
friend of mine explained that to me, who was going through it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But you know, it's so sad that many times families, if they have somebody in their family is addicted, they're ashamed of it. It used to be a shame thing and we try to keep it quiet, and, you know, so that people wouldn't notice it. But I think now people, at least some people are becoming more receptive of helping instead of turning their nose up at that other
Yeah.
person. For a lot of times families, you know, you kept stuff like that private because you didn't want people to look down on them, you know. So many people have such a negative attitude that they have this punishment idea instead of compassion.
So the first paragraph says, each and every human being is created in the image of God and should be treated with dignity and respect.
Yes.
Here.
Well, sometimes the family can be very judgmental and not helpful at all.
They don't want, shame brought to their families, they just cast them aside. I'm sort of guilty of that. I got somebody in my family, it's a nephew, and I used to hire him to help me a lot, but I got to where I was afraid of him. I mean, living alone, I just, you know, if somebody's hooked on drugs, I'm just afraid to, that's me, you know.
Yeah.
And I just quit giving him work to do it all because I was afraid that I didn't want him to stay away from me, you know, that was very selfish of me, but I didn't know what else to do.
Pretty normal. You
Yeah.
just take your money, help you with knife points,
Well, that's
take,
how it's
get your drugs, you might have them.
yeah. It's what you do, you know.
Tough.
You have to try to encourage that person to get help. But that's a hard sell.
If they don't want help.
If they don't want help, if they have lived their lives up to this point, flirting with danger, and that's their MO, that's the way they operate. It almost requires a complete change of environment and attitude. And we're all bound to the places that we call home, all kinds of things. And we're all bound to the attitude, well, I haven't been successful before, what makes me think I can do this, you know?
I think like it says here, you know, to be treated with dignity and respect. I mean, like you said, you can't change somebody. You can't make that this is what you need to do, this is what you should do. You can't make them do that, but you can still find ways, I think, to still have some kind of contact that is not detrimental to you, but it lets them continue to know you were there, you know. And I know there's some people that will, you know, have advantage, you know, if they think you can give them money or support them in some way, but I don't know, I think it's very hard because most of us, I'm afraid, don't view everybody else with, you know, dignity and respect, and think they are, I think we all, you know, I have a hard time when I go to Asheville, especially when I go to Sam's, and do that, Manhattan, I guess it is. And there's usually somebody standing there with a sign, and, you know, I really struggle with that because, and I have given money, you know, but I tell myself they're going to go buy beer, or they're going to, you know, this is going to go toward their drug habit or something. So I don't know if there's any answers, but I think, you you know, whether it's a family member or a friend or,
A stranger.
yeah, you just have to try to find some way to be there or do something.
And I think Wiley has a really good solution. He said he will stop and say, "Can I take you to McDonald's and get some food?" Now that requires time and interaction. What we should think about doing, if we have friends or relatives in the family with problems, we should think about, what can I do with that person that will give them some time away from whatever the drug of choice is, but will give them some time and might be a good experience.
I just bought a book that hadn't really started yet. It's about dealing with depression, and I actually got the book suggestions from Log Abundance, which is a site I really enjoy. But it's about how with depression, one thing you can do for if you have a depression is to find constructive outlets. And not only for yourself, but for a person who's having an issue. But I think at times, like, we have a lot of basketry supplies, and my son is wanting to do a basket truck. And I'm giving him the information about how to and what to and all that. But I think it's actually going to take me participating with him in order for him to find, because he's struggling with depression. And find constructive ways for him to be active. You know, that's what we're doing, is finding constructive ways to combat the issues we're having in our lives.
Well, I know when I lived in Little Rock and had been able to find a church, didn't know my neighbors or have friends, and after I quit working, I'd sit there, watch TV, and then I'd sit there and watch TV some more. I would have to walk, I had a place like that outside the yard. But my life is so different now. You know, I found Mars Hill, I found all you guys, and it is like day and night.
Exactly.
Because I'm not somebody who's going to go out there and say, I have got to find a place. You know, I did try. I did go to several different churches, and it didn't work out. But you guys, all of you, Lucy, have made me feel so welcome and so cared for here. And it just has made a tremendous difference in my life. Because otherwise, and you know, just like I was talking about during COVID when we were meeting, you know, I would, from here up, I would look really, you know, I would actually comb my hair and I would look like something, you know, I would try to look, you know, when we got online and everything.
Right.
But y'all got me through that, and, you know,
Headshots are good.
yes.
Well, you know, when I first came here, I was a lost